You are now listening to a Mr. Murphy production.
The economy's in trouble.
In trouble.
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 So here, we can see that the economy is clearly in a recession, very unfortunately. Now, a recession is very bad for a multitude of reasons, and it has very, very negative impact on the economy in a whole. A recession basically is a dip in the business cycle, right? Which results in a decline in economic activity. This means there's a widespread drop in spending. You know, there's not as much money circulating through the economy, and as a result, businesses have less demand. There's a widespread drop in demand as well. So demand for goods and services produced by businesses also takes a hit, right? And so these businesses lose money. So also, in a recession, the unemployment level rises to a level that's considered above, what would be considered normal or good, right? So graphically, a recession occurs when the equilibrium point of aggregate demand and short-run aggregate supply between the price level and real GDP graph, when that equilibrium point is at a lower output level than long-run aggregate supply. So it's to the left if you're looking at a graph. And I mean, really the only way to get out of a recession is to have a rightward shift in either short-run aggregate supply or aggregate demand. Now the problem is there's two ways that this could be done, right? So people have very differing viewpoints on which is the better one. And as we will see, Hayek is much more in favor of letting short-run aggregate supply self-correct back to the long-run aggregate supply point.
We heard what Kingston said.
We heard what Kingston said.
Self-correction ain't dead.
Self-correction ain't dead.
Slime.
No for real, no cap.
Government involvement is whack.
No for real, no cap.
Unemployment ain't whack.
Slime.
If you think it won't self-correct,
Then you in trouble.
if you think it won't self-correct,
Then you in trouble.
Hayek's key observation was that when governments interfere in the economy, it results in people acting in certain ways that are not sustainable, which ultimately leads to when the economy booms or busts. The main challenge is to ensure that producers have knowledge and the incentives to produce goods and services that the people want and will buy on a consistent basis. Government interference, such as through subsidies or by manipulating the money supply, obscures that knowledge by distorting prices. This interference causes producers to produce things that consumers don't really want and they won't buy on a consistent basis. This inevitably results in the producers having to relax and readjust in order to better meet true consumer demands. The core analysis from Hayek on economic booms and busts is that government interference, even when done with the best of intentions, can ultimately change the way people act by changing incentives and changing signals in the marketplace. These changes result in investments that are just not sustainable and which ultimately lead to recessions or economic downfalls.
ooh, fresh out the bread.
Ooh, count up the debt.
Ooh, fresh out the bread.
Ooh, count up the debt.
Ooh, fresh out the bread.
Ooh, count up the debt.
Ooh, fresh out the bread.
Ooh, count up the debt.
Ooh, fresh out the bread.
Ooh, count up the debt.
Classical economists hold the value that the spending of the government should be just as balanced as the households and firms that it is governing. The topic of public debt was debated after Keynes had proposed that taking on government debt would help to improve the economy, and then when the economy is stable, it would be easier to pay it off. While this, in theory, works, in practice it is not so simple. Keynes also proposed that during inflation, taxes should be raised and debt should be paid off. As we can see today, this does not happen. But why? Well, as I said before, Keynesian economics was a good theory, but in practice, politics ruins it. Political figures take on debt to help boost the economy. When it comes time to pay the debt off and raise taxes in order to stabilize the economy, most politicians care more for their next term in the election than the economic stability of the government. Generally, this can lead to inflation because the government isn't willing to stop the heroics of saving everyone from a recession. This creates a great deal of problems because public image is now more important than public debt. If everyone is too scared to raise taxes and pay for debt, then it simply will never be paid. The other issue here is that if taxes are raised to pay for this debt, then domestic capital is decreased, along with the value of the currency, basically putting the economy back in the same spot that it started in. The consensus should be to change public debt because it causes more harm than good. It can't be implemented correctly. The private sector is much more capable of pulling itself out of a recession in time than a quick fix from an untrustworthy government.
Cut. We heard what Keynesian said.
Debt up, money down.
Multi-trillions, paid out on dealing.
For the economy, get the government out.
If we in a recession, let it go down.
We don't need the government because it causes inflation.
Economy's in trouble. Debt up trillions.
Counted by the millions.
Every second I'm dealing.
Self-correction, let the money flow.
Keynesian's ideas are whack, yo.